Hello, everyone. This is your host, Andrea Warner, with a quick class from Disruptive Marketing Lab. What's a quick class? Get in, get smarter, and get out. I'm here today with Brittani Hunsaker, Director of PPC at Disruptive Advertising. Brittani, where are you joining us from today?
I am from Linden, Utah, or that's where I'm from today.
Fantastic. Okay, so for those of you who are joining us, we'd love to hear where you're from, too. Open up that question box and let me know where in the world you're dialing in from today. And while you're doing this, let me tell you a little bit about Brittani. She is such a pro, this girl. She has a passion for online marketing and driving results for businesses. She really strives to revolutionize each client's online marketing strategy. She's certified in practically everything Google has, AdWords, shopping, mobile, video. She was recently named Employee of the Year while at Orange Soda. She's a huge Game of Thrones fan, closet Candy Crusher, and enjoys spending time with her family and friends. That's so great. All right, Brittani, let's see where some of our callers are from today. We've got, let's see here, we've got Northbrook, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, California, great. Indiana. Okay, people are typing in, so we'll go back and look at some of those in a little bit too. All right, so in today's class, Brittani is going to walk us through how to use offline data that you likely already have. You don't have to invent this. You already have this probably to help your online lead generation. If you have questions as you go, open up that box and ask. And Brittani, show us how it's done.
Awesome. All right. So just wanted to go through, we're going to go through a lot of the nitty-gritty details and the type of data that you can capture from your CRM or offline and how to use it. So I'm just going to jump in right here. Let's see here. So first of all, I just wanted to go through a few things to identify, who primarily is going to benefit from this webinar. Today's topic is going to be specifically applicable to anybody who has, a lead generation campaign or just a multi-stage sales funnel. That either happens offline or part of it happens offline. And if you don't already import sales and revenue data into AdWords. What we're going to cover, I just created a quick list here of the primary pieces that we'll cover today. We're going to show you where to find this data or how to capture the right data in your CRM. We'll show you how to interpret the data in your reporting. We'll show you what to do with the data captured to get the most value from your online campaigns. We'll provide a quick case example from an actual campaign where this data has improved and impacted ROI. And we'll provide you with some additional resources to help you get started with using your offline data towards online wins.
Great, can't wait.
Awesome. So number one, wanted to ask this question, why is this data valuable? And the main reason is a great cost per lead. It does not always equal profit or a return on your investment. But using your data does equal huge wins when used in the right way. So a couple of things about this as well. A lot of lead generation campaigns focus on cost per lead as a key performance indicator. However, it doesn't take into account the account lead or it doesn't take into account the lead quality or if the leads are closing in general. And something that I hear a lot of from whether it's a PPC company or marketing professionals is that they'll say, we did everything to produce leads for your business. It's your job to convert them. When in reality, there is something further that can be done with the right data in place. So that should no longer be an excuse.
Don't you feel like that's just kind of a fundamental thing that should be happening?
Absolutely, yes. And so most often this data is available and too frequently it just isn't being utilized. And just utilizing this data in the most, simplest way, just by analyzing some of these segments, can equal huge wins when you kind of relate that information back to your marketing campaign.
Great, you guys are going to love this.
Yes, so there's two primary ways to optimize your account or your online marketing campaigns based on your CRM data that's offline. There's automatic or manual. Automatically, means you have a CRM integration in place, or you import your CRM data regularly into AdWords. And then manually, you're able to assess your lead status reports regularly and identify discernible trends and take action. The primary piece that we're going to walk through is more of the manual data, like walking through the manual data. For automatic integration, we'll still provide some instructions at the end on how to get that going. The automatic integration is primarily reliant on your lead management system or your CRM and their capabilities. So one of the first parts of that, you'll just need to be able to capture and store what's called a Google Click ID or a GCLID, and create an offline conversion that you'll import back into AdWords or analytics. So if you're not doing an automatic integration, we'll first walk through how to take advantage of this data in a manual report, then provide recommendations and resources to help you automate this process as well. Okay, so first we're going to go through where to find and capture your data. We'll be using Salesforce as the primary example CRM in this case, and just refer how to kind of carry that across any CRM or lead management system, and what you should look out for different segments and different pieces of data. So for this example, if we're taking Salesforce into account, I'll provide the instructions on this, and then how you would make it applicable to any CRM. So the baseline for Salesforce, there's a little drop down at the top right hand of your corner. We use the enterprise level of Salesforce, and so this is the version that we're referencing here. So you would navigate to marketing and then to the reports tab and just create a new report. And we're going to walk through the different columns or fields or segments that you would want to include in that type of a report to assess the data in a number of different ways. So that's a quick instruction here.
Okay, really quickly, I'd love to hear from people on the call which CRM you use. And Brittani, I just want to re-emphasize that you can do this with most CRMs. It doesn't have to be Salesforce.
Exactly. So we're just using Salesforce as the example here, but it can be done with any lead management system. It just really depends on the data that you're able to capture, and we're going to walk through each of those data points. So you might already be capturing some of these data points that are also available in your CRM. Again, you can use any CRM or lead management system, and we're going to walk through each of the fields to see if you have them available, and if you don't, how you can make those available.
Perfect.
So here's just an idea of, you can kind of walk through some of these bullet points and see if your lead management system is already capturing these or if it's not, and then we'll walk through kind of a more detailed description of each of these pieces, as well as what you would do with each of these segments. So the main reason that we want to look at this data as well is, on the front end of a campaign, you can look at, what your first level lead is, as well as your cost per lead and your lead closing rate. And then in your CRM or your lead management system, you're able to discern, of course, how many of those leads are then converting, if they're producing a good quality of lead, and what ultimately your cost per sale is. So some of these segments we'll walk through more in detail here, but just wanted to give you a quick look here. And so now we're going to walk through how to interpret and use each of these segments, is what I'm calling them. Let's see here. So the first one that we're going to go through is source and medium. This segment allows you to identify the top level source and medium your lead originated from. And both of these, I'll include a quick description in each of the slides, and then just talk about each of them a little bit as well. Both of these segments you can directly pull from Google Analytics parameters that are already available, or your CRM may also have an equivalent or comparable segment that you can utilize. And the main reason that this is going to be helpful is you can discern, number one, where leads are coming from, and if they're converting into a sale, and then you can make high-level decisions on budget allocation to maximize high return investments. So probably the best example here is if you're, let's say you're an alarm company and you have multiple campaigns that you're running. You have, your Google AdWords running. You have, let's say you have a billboard that's running. You have an email campaign. You have multiple sources that you're using online, right? Having this type of segment is going to help you identify and discern just where leads are coming from and where sales are coming from as well.
Great.
And then the next one is campaign name. Similar to source medium, this segment allows you to drill down to the campaign level. Pretty self-explanatory, but if you have your campaign structured by product or service, network or market, you can easily discern which areas are producing the best type of leads, and again, just determine budget allocation based on this segment. Now, there's quite a few to go through, so I'm going to kind of talk through some of these, and then I'd love to hear, if you have questions as we're going through these, feel free to type them out. Keyword or term and match type. So the keyword or term segment allows you to identify the keyword that triggered your ad. Match type allows you to drill down into that keyword a bit further by identifying the actual match type of that keyword. So you can discern what keywords are driving the best quality leads, and if they're coming from broad phrase or exact match keyword variants. And then you can make key decisions on keyword optimization to maximize performance. So let's say you have, again, just kind of using the alarm company as an example. If you have, multiple keywords in any given campaign, you have multiple match types as well. You can just drill down into what keywords are profitable or maybe what keywords are losing money. Let's see, the quality indicator, this is probably the biggest one that I see companies not using. That's most often also you might need to put a practice in place to start recording some type of quality indicator. For Salesforce, for example, that's converting a lead to an opportunity. For most lead management systems or CRMs, it can also mean if you have any type of rating system or just your lead status, like most people have a lead status in their lead report. So just being able to, discern when the lead comes in, if it was a quality lead or not, and whether this exists or not, it's good to think about how your sales team is using your CRM and recording general notes on lead quality.
Okay, and you'll walk us more through a rating system in the case study, right?
I don't know if the rating system is in there. Yeah, we'll have to double check. Okay. So with the quality indicator in place, combined with, and all of these kind of, you can look at any one of these segments, but especially combining them together to look at the data on multiple levels is ultimately going to help you to just identify where quality leads are coming from and which types of leads or campaigns or keywords are producing poor quality leads. Okay. And then there's just a few more on kind of the segments that I've identified here. For landing page, this one just allows you to drill down to the direct landing page URL that users converted from, allows you to collect key performance metrics this might come in handy more if you're doing A/B testing to identify which page is performing the best. And if you are doing some sort of landing page testing, you can also use another segment that is similar to landing page, but it'll identify the variant, which that one may depend more on what landing page testing tool you're using. But in that case, you would be able to see, okay, this is either the URL that users converted from and or the page variant that they converted from as well. So do you see why that would be beneficial to have? Okay, next one is user location. This one I've seen be super beneficial for a lot of different types of businesses. This allows you to identify the geographic location the user clicked or converted from, depending on what level you want to view it. For any type of campaign, this level of granularity can help you identify new geographic targets, maximize the top areas that are performing really well, or just eliminate areas that are maybe spending and maybe even converting but just not producing revenue. So one example for user location is if you have two geo-targets, let's say two different states, you have California and New York, and you see that California is producing a pretty large amount of leads. It's generating a lot of leads and spending a lot of money. And when you dive into your lead management system and this type of a report, and you see that they're not converting, it can just help you identify different markets and different ways to optimize based on geographic markets. All right, device. Pretty simple. It just identifies what device the clicker lead came from, whether it came from desktop or mobile or tablet. This can help you identify if you should put more focus or more budget into a specific device, or just identify more areas of opportunity. If your mobile performance is lacking, you may want to evaluate your mobile experience across your ads, landing pages, and lead capture process.
Brittani, I know this is so situational, but I've seen a lot of businesses that only advertise to people on iOS devices. I know that's not going to hold true for every niche, but I just think that's especially something to pay attention to.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are only focusing on one device, for example, there is another segment that will dive a little bit deeper and let you know what model of device you're targeting, so you can kind of do the same segment a level deeper.
Great.
Yeah, and then next one is, there's just a couple more on this list, but the placement or referring URL, especially if you're doing any sort of retargeting or display, this will identify the content site where your ad was clicked or the referring URL of the user. This one is really important, primarily if you're seeing a lot of maybe not quality leads coming from a specific site. You can identify that and rule it out in your targeting directly. And there's a lot of other segments that you can use depending on your particular product or service. Or your sales process. So here's just a few of some of the other segments that are available, kind of second to the ones that you generally have in your lead management system. These are ones that you can add in addition. There's device model, the one I was just talking about. Great. And so again, those were just a few examples of some of the most common ones to take advantage of that are going to be kind of more high-end beneficial. Next, I'll show you specifically how we've seen these segments or these types of segments impact results and what to do with the data, including what to look for, key actions to take, and good baseline metrics to look for as well. So first of all, what to look for. Here's a few questions I wanted everyone to be able to read through as well. So with each segment available and combined into one report, ideally, you can first analyze for obvious trends, anything that just kind of sticks out to you, and then assess top spending sources. Look for areas that you're spending the most in, whether it's a source or campaign. And then some key areas to identify are listed here. Which segments or sources or campaigns, again, are producing the most sales and revenue, which segments are producing negative ROI, which are producing the best quality leads, and which are producing the worst quality leads. And then another piece that I would recommend is really looking at the closing rates by lead type as well, and look for sales team training opportunities to improve those closing rates, or just the use of the CRM. That's a pretty major one as well. So just utilizing this data, there's a lot of key things to look for. And those are a few of them. The key actions to take off of this report Number one, I would look at budget allocation between any of these segments. So primarily maximize the areas that produce the most positive ROI and the high quality leads first before spending any of your marketing dollars elsewhere. However, there's still caveats about that. Ensure you still allow sufficient budget for any campaigns that are more prospecting, branding, or new campaigns that you're testing to sufficiently build brand awareness and educate your audience about your product and service. But for your campaigns that are more, they've been running for a long time, and you have, a little bit more data on those campaigns, definitely look at budget allocation there. And then the other piece too is kind of determine if an area warrants maybe a decrease in budget, or maybe you shouldn't run in a certain market because it has proved to not perform well or not produce a good ROI. Or it could identify opportunities similar to what I commented on mobile, is just to look at it in a different light and maybe refresh your strategy approach in a specific area. So this could be based on various other factors as well, just considering the channel that you're marketing in, the age of the campaign, and its objective. So it's still subjective and it depends on a lot of different factors, but these are some key actions to consider when assessing this type of report. All right, and then this is probably one of the most important factors about this type of report. For baseline metrics, obviously the more data, the better. Ideally, when you get to the point that you have year-over-year data, you can start to see what annual trends look like and take all of that information into account. Baseline metrics as well as frequency to assess should be based on the traffic and lead volume to your site, as well as the number of sources and campaigns. So if you have, 2 sources, you'll probably get a lot of data a lot quicker than if you have 12 sources, just depending on the amount of traffic to your site. So even though, it's ideal to have like a year's worth of data, that doesn't necessarily limit your ability to get started. As soon as you start seeing these metrics and you can start to discern trends, you can definitely use them right away to identify how things are performing. Yeah, so I think just probably the major thing to note here is if you're just beginning to capture this data, it will take a good amount before you're able to accurately assess trends, just again depending on how much traffic you're getting into your site, how frequently, and honestly it's just a case-by-case basis. So if you're unsure or have any questions about how much data you need, just let us know and we can dive into it a little bit deeper. Okay, so I think the next part is I just wanted to provide a quick example of how we've utilized this type of data to impact results. This is a use case that we put together off of one of our campaigns that specifically wanted to call out that it's B2B and it's a lead generation campaign. So I'm kind of walking through a few different metrics here. Number one, what the performance was before we assessed the CRM data, what we found upon investigating the actual data, and the actions that we took as a result, and how they improved results as well. So for this one, the core metrics were, on all accounts, this data, before I jump into it, is probably like the most exciting part of diving into this data when you really find when you really go undercover and find what is driving revenue and what isn't, and make changes that can really impact results. So this example, there was a new campaign that we were running that started off really great. It had a really high amount of lead volume. It was even a better CPA than the rest of the account. And here's some of the metrics that I've outlined here. So it was actually producing 33% of the lead share at a 35.5% better CPA. And when we actually dove into the CRM data and assessed, lead quality and cost per sale, It was actually producing a cost per sale that was just over 1.5 times higher than the account's average. So as a result, by better allocating ad spend from this campaign into others, we actually saw a higher ROI even with a slightly higher CPA. So sometimes let me just explain this one a little bit as well, because sometimes when you're optimizing for ROI versus cost per lead or CPA, it's sometimes okay to have a higher CPA because you're actually getting a better return on your investment. So this is the primary example that I wanted to provide as a result, as well as kind of jump into some resources to get you started. There are some pretty common parameters that you can use for analytics that can also be applicable to your lead management system. They're just UTM parameters or value track parameters. So we've put together a quick list of resources and guides to help get you started. If you'd like these emails, you can email me directly. There's a question from a user: how do you tag users within your CRM into AdWords? So I assume this is in order to, we might need further clarification here. So how do we tag users within CRM into AdWords? Oh, okay. Is this either to import your CRM data back into AdWords or to get these segments into your CRM? So to answer this question, there's a couple different URL parameters that you can use, and for the most part, a lot of these segments are available through URL parameters. So on your landing page URL, for example, if you have, www.mydomain.com, there's a number of parameters that you can use, and we can send you kind of the general instructions to get started on what those are. Analytics has a UTM parameter as well as a value track parameter that you can tag onto your URL to identify any of these segments plus a bunch of other ones.
Okay, so I just want to make it very clear that these resources, will include these in the show notes, so you can have those afterwards. Thanks for the question, Louise. Yep. I hope that was very clear. And yes, the presentation and the recording will be available after, Rob. And let's see, I think that's all of our questions today. Okay, and yes, that was the answer, Louise says. Okay, very good. Brittany, this is very, very useful information. Thank you so much for sharing it. I really appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, it is a lot of information and a lot of information to digest and get in place. So again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to message me. Or we can send over a number of resources to help get you started.
Okay, and Brittany, tell everybody one more time how to contact you.
So I have my email is brittany@disruptiveadvertising.com, and Brittany is Brittani. And then, or you can call me directly. It's 801-824-2441.
All right, that's fantastic. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Contact Brittany with questions, and we'll see you soon for the next quick class. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks.